Hey y'all, this is Stephanie Hardy from the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And before I start my episode, I just want to give my thoughts and prayers to anyone who was affected on this day 22 years ago, which was, of course, September 2001, which is a day that lives in just complete sadness and horror, as we just couldn't believe anybody could do anything that horrific to a whole group of people like that. And I wanted to start my show by addressing the idea that there were many lives changed and lost on that day, before and even after the events, for years. And I couldn't be me if I didn't address that and talk about that. So I want to say rest in peace to all the souls that we lost in the midst of that tragedy. And I want to say that my thoughts and prayers are with every family that has been affected and are still affected by the events of that day. And we as a country have done an amazing job of being resilient and moving past a lot of the bad stuff. And I hope that we can continue to be there for each other in the midst of that. Three cities were affected this day, and two of them are cities that I love very much and hold dear to my heart, which is New York and Washington, D.C. And then, of course, the area in Pennsylvania that was affected, they deserve all the love and respect on this day as well, because it's just always hard to think about. But in the end, we got to love each other and hold each other close, because you just never know how things will go and how things will end. All the other bad stuff just doesn't matter. Let's just love each other and be the very best that we can for each other. Again, never forget, and send love and positivity to anyone that was affected by this on this day. This is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs, and the room is stutters. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape for every one of us. I was kinda late, so I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air. Had to drop a couple bars just to make you all aware. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. You know I go by Joe or the rest of the flow, yeah.
Hey y'all, welcome to a new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl Stephanie Hardy. Of course, if this is your first time listening, thank you for joining the ride, and I hope that this continues to be a safe space for you to listen to me talk about wrestling and just love on what we love about wrestling and focusing on the positive parts. And of course, if this isn't your first time listening and or watching, thank you so much for continuing on this journey with me as we continue to talk about and focus on all the things that we love about professional wrestling. Thank you so much for your support and love. And of course, like I said earlier, in the introduction, I just pray healing energy to anyone that's affected by the events that took place 22 years ago in New York, Washington, D.C., as well as Pennsylvania. And it's just a terrible situation all around. It always has been, and it will always be a point of tragedy that we'll never forget. But at the end of the day, we rose above and we were still there for each other as much as we could have been. And of course, it's always a healing process, but in the end, we are always here for each other. And it's always for the best to just show love as much as you can, because you just never know what could happen in life. And speaking of life, man, life is lifing. Let me just say, I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone who wished me a happy birthday. Um, this past week, of course, Monday was my 30th birthday, and I was really grateful to see another year and be alive for that. And I was just surrounded by love most of the day. It was a very chill 30th birthday, but I don't regret any of it because of the idea that it was just full of love and full of positivity, which is definitely a lot more of what I need at this point in my life. So I'm just really grateful and I'm happy to be 30. I'm happy to, not look like drastically old, like I've just been drugged through the mud. And I'm just really happy to just be here with you on this show that, that I've been allowed to create and do for the past 3 years. So yeah, it's StephMania 30 all month long. It's Stephanie Appreciation Month. So if you haven't, of course, shown me any appreciation this month, you have the rest of the month to do it. And I might even celebrate even after that point because turning 30 is a big freaking deal. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to anyone, all of my family members, anyone that's a part of the wrestling community who knows me, who wished me a happy birthday, all of y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like I can't say it enough. I'm just really happy to be here and alive. So while we are talking about, being here and alive, there's been so much crazy wrestling stuff going on, right? From last weekend all the way to this past week to all the way till now, there has been so much to talk about. And honestly, it's just, I can't wait to get into it on here. So, of course, we're going to start with news and gossipish. And of course, when it comes to news and gossipish, you just have to start with where you feel like it's the most organic place to be. And this story really interested me the first time I heard it. It was the story of Cody Rhodes talking about whether or not him and John Cena, one of the greatest of our generation, will ever fight in a match. Like, it was just really crazy to think about because, of course, every time you see um these two together at this point in their careers, it's almost like they're very similar to each other now, unlike back in the day where it seemed like they weren't ever running in the same circles at all when Cody Rhodes was first in WWE, and John Cena was still, of course, headlining multiple WrestleManias and doing all kinds of crazy things. So Cody Rhodes said in a Reddit AMA, and this was from Ringside News. He said, when asked about the potential of having a match against John Cena, Cody said, "I asked John if he does one more to consider that match. If not, though, I'm blessed to have been under his learning tree and shared a ring with him in the past." During an episode of Raw in Boston earlier this year, Cody Rhodes embraced John Cena on the ramp, and then they appeared to share a few words. And then he later revealed in another interview with Stadium Astro that he requested a match against John Cena in this moment. So live on TV, he asked John Cena for a match. Um, and then he also said that John Cena responded, "I can't promise that," which makes me so sad because I'm just like, yo, you guys are basically the same person at this stage. Like, why can't y'all fight? Why can't y'all fight each other? Like, it's just insane. It's just like the mega powers coming together to fight. And also, I feel like because they're so similar now, maybe they won't fight. Maybe they'll just do like a little bit of a tag team run while John Cena is still, running around with us. That would be amazing. And considering John Cena seems to be making more appearances on SmackDown, and it's rumored that Cody Rhodes offered himself up as a trade for Jey Uso to go to SmackDown, you never know what can truly happen. So I'm definitely here for the possibility of a John Cena Cody Rhodes match. But then if they do tag team together, that would be really cool too, because they're both really white hot baby faces. And if it's one thing baby faces know how to do, is to team up. So, maybe they'll be better served as a tag team other than just opponents. But then you never know. Heels can face each other back and forth too, in matches as well. Because we did just see Tiffany Stratton, the NXT Women's Champion, face off against Kiana James. And they both had some heel stuff going on. So for all we know, these two baby faces might just fight each other just to see, who's the best or the baddest. So yeah, you just never know. But I think this is a very interesting concept, but you just never know what you're gonna get in wrestling. So big ups to these two. They're two of my faves. And I'm just excited for whatever it is that they're going to bring to us in this part of the year leading up until, of course, next year. Because y'all know what happens when next year rolls around. It's Royal Rumble and WrestleMania time. So, yeah. Also in the news, we have Cardi B, who, of course, just released a song with her rap sister Megan Thee Stallion called Bongos. If you're into rap, I suggest you do listen to that song and watch that video. It is visually stunning, not only because of the clothes and everything and the colors and everything, but because these are just two beautiful women in general at the apex of their careers, just being amazing rap girls. So please watch that video if you haven't. But while she was doing press promoting the song, she went to Hot 97, and of course she interviewed with Ebro in the morning, where of course Peter Rosenberg is a host. Now, Peter Rosenberg is a big wrestling fan, and of course, he has done press work with WWE multiple times on pre shows, post shows, and all of the above. And he even has his own podcast with Spotify called Cheap Heat. So he talks about wrestling all the time. So he decided to be the journalist that he is, and asked Cardi B about the possibility of her participating in a wrestling event. Now, Cardi spoke about her wrestling fandom, and she downplayed the idea of having a match because she has given birth to two kids, and her body has undergone a lot of changes from that. But she expressed interest in attending WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia next year, saying, "I mean, I would love to attend. I don't know. I don't know what to do if I need to perform or slap a bitch, but like I want to go. I have to fulfill some type of dream." And what's so beautiful is, of course, throughout Twitter, if you follow Cardi B on Twitter or Instagram, she's expressed her love for wrestling multiple times. Of course, they listed them here. In 2019, she named Eddie Guerrero, Booker T, Batista, Edge, Lita, Triple H, The Undertaker, and Kane as some of her favorite wrestlers, which suggests she was heavily into WWE during the Ruthless Aggression era. And also, if you remember in 2021, her hit song Up was the theme song for SummerSlam. And even though a lot of people have their feelings about SummerSlam, especially when it comes to Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, the 26 seconds thing, it was really cool that Cardi did the theme song for it. And a lot of people were rumbling and running with the rumor that Cardi could very well be there and challenge somebody. There was even one point where her and Lacey Evans, or Lacey Australia, what she's known as now, had a back and forth on Twitter, and they could have very well gotten into it and had a match, but that never happened because, of course, life changes. Cardi had her child, Lacey had another child, stuff just didn't happen that way. But I am definitely excited about the rap and wrestling connection continuing to grow more and more, because I said on my show a few years ago that I saw something like that happening when Bad Bunny, of course, made his way in there. And then you've always had Wale and his Wale Mania event and the many appearances he has made on WWE television as well. So I'm just like, yo, like, we need some women rappers, some women superstars up in here when it comes to wrestling, because we've even had Megan Thee Stallion take pictures with Bianca Belair before, like at a music festival. So I mean, for all we know, I would love it, absolutely love it, if Cardi B came to WrestleMania 30 next year. Like, that would be absolutely fantastic. Plus, not to mention, WrestleMania 40 has made so much money already, and the tickets are selling like hotcakes. So I'm just like, yo, like, make this happen. Like, give us a female superstar to do something on the same level as a Bad Bunny, or like as a Wale or something like that. Like, we've had Raven, we've had Kim Kardashian, we've even had Snooki from Jersey Shore, because she was at the WrestleMania I went to in Atlanta. So give us a super woman megastar to have something to do with WrestleMania next year. I would love that. So I welcome Cardi B with open arms. So if she wants to come on, then please come on. Let's do it. Let's get it cracking. I love her so much. So Rosenberg even said that he would try to like pull some strings to make it happen. So if he has to do it, then I'm cool with it too. So let's make it happen, y'all. I like it. Also in the news, I would be remiss and not doing my job in news and gossipish if I didn't talk about this. So CM Punk got fired from AEW. Um, and it was really stressful a lot of the time, like when the news came out, because of course there was a statement that was released last week where he had gotten released due to a confrontation that he had had with Jack Perry, who used to be called Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Um, and a lot of shade was thrown. Things backstage escalated to a point to where people may have gotten hurt, including Tony Khan, the owner of AEW himself. So ahead of the episode of Collision on September the 2nd, it was announced that AEW had decided to terminate CM Punk's contract with cause after he was involved with a backstage altercation at All In, which was of course in London, which was their really big event that they really should have been celebrating and focus on celebrating a whole lot more, as opposed to having it overshadowed by all this dark mess, backstage, brawls and stuff. It was just really sad. Tony Khan, of course, took responsibility for the decision, saying it was made after unanimous advice from a disciplinary council as well as legal representation. Um, and then, of course, the rumors start flying after all of this happened. Viewership apparently dropped for Collision after that announcement was made. Like, their entire weekend was in Chicago, so the idea of him making that announcement in his hometown really did rub a lot of people the wrong way. So emotions and tensions have been very high when it comes to the firing of CM Punk, because it felt like just, a few years ago everything was good and everybody was happy that he was back. And now we're sitting here talking about him not working for the company anymore due to some crazy shenanigans that took place with a fight. And then on top of that, you have the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, who of course serve as EVPs of the company, sort of celebrating it on their own show, being the elite, and even on camera, like not on camera like on television, but just in the midst of the audience, running a victory lap to give off the impression that they're happy that this man got fired. So it's just a lot going on. But in the midst of that, there have been rumors of various companies that are apparently interested in hiring CM Punk back. One of them being Impact Wrestling. This is from a report from PW Insider Elite. They said Impact Wrestling is said to be super excited about the possibility of working with Punk. However, the report also notes that the notion isn't necessarily realistic from a long-term perspective. And then they also said that PW Insider does not have any information on whether those within Impact have had any conversations with Punk, or whether the star is interested in discussing opportunities with other promotions at this time. Also, we also don't know if his contract had a non-compete clause, just like WWE does for certain people. Because usually, whenever people in WWE get released, they have a non-compete clause that keeps them from participating in other wrestling events for about a good 60 or 90 days, depending on the contract. But we don't know if AEW has anything like that, and I definitely don't know. But then PW Insider also noted that CM Punk's potential future was being discussed in WWE within minutes of his firing. They said much of the discussion was taking place among top talent, while some were firmly against the idea of his return. Others believe it could be a chance to make big money. PW Insider knows of one top talent who said they'd be all for Punk's return, but that call isn't for the talent to make. Now, ciao. There is more to say. I'm sorry. WWE executives haven't given much information to PW Insider beyond the fact that they have a merger to finalize before talking about bringing in big money talent. Because, of course, the news came out today that this is going to be the final day that Vince McMahon will have ownership of WWE before the merger with Endeavor and UFC becomes official on today. So they do have all of that to focus on. So maybe they aren't talking about CM Punk, but at the same time, with the way that CM Punk left so many years ago, I can't imagine that they would consider it, because there's just so much baggage there. And I believe a common thing that's happening when it comes to CM Punk is just the fact that there's just so much baggage. And I'm not saying that all of it is all of his fault, because of course, it takes two or three people to tango when it comes to, business dealings like this. But at the same time, I just don't see him coming back to WWE at this point because they left with such a tenuous relationship, and then you have AEW with a tenuous relationship either. Now, unless he wants to just start fresh and go to Impact, then I wouldn't mind that either, because that would do, you know, that would give Impact a whole lot to deal with. In terms of viewership and exposure, that would be amazing for them, but I'm just not sure. So no one knows exactly where Punk is going to be or how it's going to work out with him at this point, but I do wish him the best. Because it definitely does suck to get fired. I can say that as a person, who did just lose their job 2 months ago. But I just hope that somehow he can figure out how to be, in a positive space when it comes to wrestling, because he seems to really love it. And I just want him to just be a part of it in a positive way that doesn't step on anybody's toes, and hopefully nobody stepping on his toes, and everybody can just be happy because life is too short. So yeah, this is a lot, but either way, I'll try my best to keep you guys posted on what is going on with that. Also in the news, we have Carlito, and a lot of rumors surrounding what his WWE contract could look like, would look like, maybe, who knows. So even though it's been 3 months since he's rumored to have signed a contract with WWE after Backlash, which everybody loved in Puerto Rico, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer Radio, who is here again, somebody that we do have to take with a grain of salt, he said that Carlito is under contract, but WWE has no plan in place to use him. After Carlito's surprise appearance at Backlash in Puerto Rico, Meltzer reported in June that the former Intercontinental Champion told a promoter from an independent show he was scheduled to work he had to cancel because he had signed a deal with WWE. But as of right now, there's been no indication at this point there's anything in the works for Carlito. And his most recent matches were against Matt Cardona for the House of Glory heavyweight title on June 16th, and a tag match with Chase Oliver against Jack Verville and Linden on June the 17th. And this sort of disappointed me when I read it, because if you seriously look at how happy everybody in Puerto Rico was when his music hit, it was almost like pandemonium, and it was amazing. Like, everybody was crunk as F, and I was crunk too, because I'm just like, I haven't seen Carlito, in so long, and he seemed like he was really keeping himself in really great shape, and him fighting for the honor of LWO and for the honor of Bad Bunny was amazing. Like, I just loved every inch of it. And then it's just like, he comes from a wrestling family, here again, because wrestling has more than one royal family, and so it's just like, yo, like, Carlito is everything. Like, this was fantastic. This was one of my favorite parts of this entire thing. So it sort of disappointed me when the rumor is being spread that there's no plans for him. Like, LWO is kind of on an upswing, as you could say. Rey Mysterio, their leader, is the United States champion. They still have Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde as a tag team. And then, of course, you have the amazing Zelina Vega, who's a part of that faction as well. So it would make sense if Carlito actually, and Santos Escobar too. So it would make sense if Carlito actually, joined it along with them, but he hasn't shown up on TV yet. And, you just have to wonder why. But, I'm sure something will be cleared up with him, because he definitely is talented and he is funny. And it's abundantly clear that people love the nostalgia of watching him spit apples in people's faces. That was really funny, even though, of course, a long time ago my mom hated that, because you just never are supposed to spit on a person ever, because it's disrespectful. And it's a way to get your butt beat. But either way, I'm definitely here for seeing more of Carlito on television. I'm here for it. Watching him, join the LWO a whole lot more often, I'm here for that as well. So yeah, I'm definitely here for more Carlito. So hopefully we'll see more of him on WWE television pretty soon. So yeah. Moving on in news and gossipish, we got to talk about Jade Cargill. Oh my God. Mama Jade, the former TBS champion and the first ever TBS champion of AEW, made her comeback this past Saturday on AEW Collision by beating up on the Renegade Twins and also beating up on Chris Statlander, and she made her intentions known that she wants her title back. And there was a lot of mystery, surrounding whether or not she was going to come back because she had been on vacation for such a long period of time. But you still saw her every now and again making appearances, at different events and charity things, and also with the business and the sports team that she owns with her husband, I believe in Texas. So she was still out here in these streets. She just wasn't out here in terms of AEW wrestling. And a lot of people were really questioning, like, when is she coming back? Is she coming back? Is she going somewhere else? What is going on? So, somebody who I know and absolutely love, 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 Mama TK Trinidad, our CEO of Women's Wrestling Talk, who I love dearly, had an exclusive interview with Jade Cargill on a tour bus of all things, and asked her, when are you going to come back? Like, what's going on? And so Jade Cargill said that there was no place that she'd rather be than AEW. She said that she had been in touch with Tony Khan despite being on a hiatus, and she showered praise on the AEW boss and made it clear that there is no other place that she would want to be. She is quoted as saying, "He's a phenomenal boss. I can literally hit him up now, and he'd probably hit me back up in 3 minutes." This is a man who has 4 companies, a professional soccer team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is the NFL football team. He's busy, but he literally comes to every show. He's so passionate. He loves our company. There's no other place I'd want to be. He doesn't look at me as a number. He looks at me like a human being. He knows my journey and understands my purpose in the wrestling community and what I want to achieve. And I don't think you can beat that. You can't beat this in a very interesting sport. So, yeah, she had this interview while she was on the bus filming a music video for French Montana, who is a producer and a rapper, if you have not heard of him before. And so I was, number one, happy about the fact that, she shared that information with an entity that I work for, like, that's cool. But then just the idea that she said, look, like, I'm not finished in AEW. The job's not finished. I still have stuff to do. So I just think it's so funny. The timing of this interview couldn't be more perfect, considering a few days after the interview came out, boom, here she is on Collision. Like, okay. Like, I really like that. Like, I'm just so happy. She came back with more long flowing white hair looking like Storm and stuff. And of course, she did mention how she is still interested in playing Storm in the Marvel universe. So you just never know how that's going to turn out. But either way, I'm just still so excited that she shared this exclusive information with Women's Wrestling Talk. And I just want to give a shout out to TK. But I'm going to talk more about her, TK Trinidad, in a minute, because she had another really cool moment that I'm going to share. But yeah, Jade is back, y'all. Hey! So yeah. Also in news and gossipish, Willow Nightingale, the former New Japan Strong Women's Champion, talked about getting back in the ring with Mercedes Moné, who y'all know that is my goat of goats. Okay. So when she had a recent interview in the media scrum at Starcast 6 event, and she discussed what facing someone like Mercedes Moné meant to her. She said it was very exciting. I think anytime you get the opportunity to work outside, I don't want to say your comfort zone, because AEW definitely, I wouldn't say, is a comfort zone. I'm constantly wanting to push myself and be the best version of myself. The women within there, I'm a little bit more used to working with their styles, the way that they think, and having the opportunity to work with Mercedes, somebody who has a big imprint on the way women's wrestling is today. At first, it was a little bit shocking when I found out. And secondly, it was very much an honor. I think working with her was awesome, and I would love to do it again if I were to have the opportunity. And then she continued to open up about what winning the gold was like. She said, wrestling her and winning the New Japan Strong Women's Championship set me up for a very exciting few months. Being able to defend that, being a champion, is constantly putting yourself out and defending that and showing why you are a champion and why you're worthy of it. And I believe that I did that. I had a great time going over to Japan to wrestle Julia, who is an amazing competitor and who is the current champion now. She's somebody else that I'd really love to wrestle again. I had that momentum going into the Owen Hart Cup tournament, main eventing against Athena, who was the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. And it was really these big moments, one after the other, and I feel grateful. So yeah, Mama Willow. She's somebody who I'm really happy to have met last year in New York for Black Girl Magic 2022. She was a part of the tag team Thick and Juicy 2.0 with Brooke Valentine. And just meeting her and gathering, her information and calling action for her with Faye was one of the biggest honors of my life. And then getting to do that in the same year she got signed to AEW was just amazing. Because she's an amazing person and she definitely deserves everything that she's getting right now. Because once upon a time, I believe she had sustained a really life-changing injury that sort of left her unsure about her wrestling future. So seeing her rise, as a Black woman and get this type of opportunity and this type of shine to face off against two other amazing Black women in Mercedes Moné and then main eventing with Mercedes and Athena, like that's amazing stuff for her. And I'm just so happy that she was able to do that. And I do hope that the day comes again where Mercedes and Willow can face each other again. Like I would love that because that match was really good. If you did watch it at Resurgence, I believe was the name of the event. So if you did watch that, like that match was really good. It was only cut short due to the idea that Mercedes sustained a broken ankle during that match. So we wish her a speedy recovery because of course that's my goat and I miss her very much. But I can't wait to see who else she will prepare to fight because of course Mercedes was at All In London. So you just never know what could happen with that. But either way, I hope her and Willow do meet each other down the road again, whether it's through New Japan or Stardom or another way. But even though I do have my apprehensions about it, I am ready for that match to happen again. So big ups to Willow. She's always doing great things. I love her so much. Also in news and gossipish, we have the NXT interviewer Mackenzie Mitchell applying to trademark her name on September the 5th. And from Fightful's trademark list, the description is below. Of course, there's a mark for Mackenzie Mitchell in the categories of entertainment services in the nature of live visual and audio performances by a host, announcer, or interviewer. And of course, she can make appearances, providing online interviews, and so many things like that. And she signed to, it's so funny how time works because she did sign to WWE in 2019 and she's been an interviewer and she's also been a host of pre-shows as well ever since. And of course her and Vic Joseph, who is one of the voices of NXT, got married and they're a beautiful couple and everything. But honestly, like Mackenzie Mitchell is someone who has definitely like grown on me in the past couple of years of watching NXT because number one, her style is amazing. She always looks fierce and she's always willing to show personality whenever she's interviewing anybody on the NXT roster. Like I just love it. I love the aura that Mackenzie Mitchell brings. And then, of course, she also has her own jewelry line called Headline by MM. So she's definitely branching out there when it comes to business opportunities. But I hope that we do get to see more of Mackenzie Mitchell in WWE stuff, for years to come. Maybe one day, she'll be a commentator. Maybe one day she might host more pre-shows or post-shows or whatever. But I love Mackenzie and I just want to see more of her, success. So I'm here for that. Trademark your name, make your money, girl. Yes. And also in the realm of news and gossipish, there's the confirmation that Sunny Kiss is no longer employed with AEW, which disappointed a lot of folks due to the idea of how talented she is. So, Sunny Kiss, if you may or may not remember, is an amazing wrestler. And when AEW first got started, she was one of the first signees that they had, and they would put her out there in terms of the level of diversity that this company was set to have when it came to them starting. But it felt like there were only so few times we would see her on television when it came to her personality. And she was always placed on like AEW Dark or AEW Dark Elevation, which was like their YouTube series that they had, but is no longer a thing now. And um and sometimes, she would even pop up on Rampage when she was a part of a faction, the Trustbusters. But even with that, you really wouldn't see her that much. And it's frustrating when you see somebody who offers you something completely different, but yet you're not seeing them on television, and you know that they're talented, but yet you're not seeing them on television. So Tony Khan did confirm at AEW's All Out press conference that Sunny is no longer on the roster. And of course, the person who asked the question about Sunny not being on the roster was here again, Women's Wrestling Talk CEO TK Trinidad. So she's been busy. She's been out here getting these interviews, and I'm happy for her. She asked about the absence of Sunny Kiss from the roster page. And Tony Khan answered by saying, I really like Sunny Kiss. We have a roster of over 100 wrestlers now across AEW, and Sunny is a great wrestler. I think I've done a lot to really keep the locker room stable. And I have a lot of people that I not only keep under contract, but also I've done well, I think, to not do like major mass layoffs and let 20 to 30 people go at a time. But I do think I can't renew every single contract in AEW. It would be impossible. And with such a big roster and a limited amount of TV spots, I think Sunny Kiss is a great wrestler and had a lot of potential from the very beginning of AEW, and still has a lot of potential as a wrestler. And I really like Sunny Kiss. Um, I think Sunny Kiss could certainly be back potentially too. We've seen wrestlers go on and do some exciting stuff and come back, like Stu Grayson, for example. So you never know what the future holds for Sunny Kiss or AEW, but I think Sunny has a lot of talent, and I definitely wish her the best as a wrestler and still hold Sunny in very high regard. It is true that I didn't renew that contract, but not because I don't like her. So yeah, Sunny's not with AEW anymore. And like I said earlier, that was disappointing for me. But it's okay because eventually, people were looking for her to say something, looking for her to, release a statement or whatever. And, she took her own time, which is something that I do appreciate, to say something after really just sitting with it for a while. And she said, 4 years of living my dream. She posted this on Twitter and Instagram, by the way. 4 years of living my dream, traveling, making everlasting friendships, working with my childhood heroes, growing into the human I've become right before everyone's eyes, and of course, being part of some historical events with groundbreaking wrestling promotion AEW. I have made quite a few mistakes along the way, but I also have learned some valuable lessons too. I am incredibly grateful for it all. In December, I'll be 30 years old with 10 years of with 10 years of wrestling under my belt. The fun part is I haven't nearly touched the surface of what I'm capable of. I knew my journey in pro wrestling would not be an easy one regardless of my talents. The best part of it all is that um I showed people like me that anything is possible when you're working your ass off for it. It may not come easy, but it will come. Sometimes you have to fall all the way down to reignite that fiery passion again. So now what? I'm the Concrete Road Sunny Kiss, and I am a free agent. I am so ready, in all caps, for this next chapter. Let's continue to break those barriers down, shatter those glass ceilings, and make ish happen. Where to next? Now, of course, this was announced. She released this statement right after it was announced that she would be at House of Glory Fallout. I believe this is what this says. It says, yeah, House of Glory Fallout. She'll be making an appearance there on Friday, September the 15th. So if you're in the New York area and if you love House of Glory, please check that out and see what Sunny Kiss has going on. Of course, in the comments, we have Malcolm talking about Cardi B. Thank you for watching. And Ricky Curon saying, hey, Ricky. So yeah, like, Sunny has a lot to do, and she's definitely not finished. So I can't wait to see what she has in store. Like, I would love seeing her on Impact, Most definitely, because can you imagine a feud between her and Jai Vidal, or even her and Trinity? Like, that would be some pretty insane stuff. Or even in NXT, like, that would be a very different type of talent, that they haven't had. And then in terms of representation, not only do you have, a black woman in that sense, or a black non-binary person, you have, yeah, you have that. So it's just like, let that happen. Let that crack up. Like, let them do that. So the future is bright for Sunny, and I wish her nothing but the absolute best. Okay. So that's really all for news and gossipish. But I do have one more thing I want to talk about that I did experience in wrestling this week that made me so excited. I want to say congratulations to Pat McAfee because his Pat McAfee show premiered on ESPN last week after First Take, and I was just so excited to see him on TV talking about football with all of his other male co-hosts that whose names I don't necessarily know. And even in his intro for the show, there was so much of him not only just playing football, but all of his amazing stuff that he's done in wrestling over the years, from NXT to him commentating to him having matches at WrestleMania and stuff. Like, all of those moments were in his intro, and it was just so amazing seeing him love on wrestling like he does, even though he's not really doing the wrestling thing like he used to. I miss him on SmackDown so much. Like, I miss him doing commentary. He is so energetic. As you can see, even now on his, he been doing this, but on his Pat McAfee show, when he's talking about anything sports related, especially football or wrestling, he is standing up the entire time, just full of energy and full of flair. And I just miss him so much. He is just so, like, he embodies the true passion that a wrestling fan has. Like, and I just relate to it in such a big way. So big ups to him for premiering his show on ESPN and stuff. And then on top of that, he was at College Game Day down here in Tuscaloosa. Now, I'm not from Tuscaloosa, I'm from Birmingham, but Tuscaloosa is about 40 minutes away from me. So he was on College Game Day when they were covering the game between Alabama and Texas, and he was really crunk, and he got everybody hyped up saying Roll Tide and all of that. And then I found this picture on this, it's not a website, but on this Twitter page called Horrible Announcing. And I'm just like, what are you watching? Like, Pat McAfee is everything, okay? Like, he is just full of energy. He's not, like, he is professional, and you can definitely tell he knows what he's talking about, as a retired football player. But at the same time, he's just so electric, and he never stops being a fan of whatever he's a part of. So I just love him so much, and I just cannot wait till he comes back to wrestling. Like, when he came back at WrestleMania, I almost lost my voice sitting in the audience, like, oh my god, it's Pat, except it was a much more expletive filled version of that. But either way, I was just so happy to see him. So I hope Pat McAfee does come back to WWE at some point, because I really miss him. But he's definitely doing his thing when it comes to ESPN. So shout out to him for all of that awesomeness. So yeah, I believe that really is all for news and gossipish. And now I'm gonna go into what Stephanie liked in wrestling this week. So I do have to address something really cool that happened last year around my birthday time, actually on my birthday too. Something that happened on Twitter was the fact that, of course, in all the birthday celebration stuff, I saw that, of course, September 4th is the 1 year anniversary. This year was the 1 year anniversary of the match between Carmelo Hayes and Ricochet. And this is, in my mind, one of the modern classics of our time. When it comes to great NXT matches, you could definitely put that up there on the list. They were fighting for the North American title at that time, because Carmelo Hayes was sort of running through the whole roster to keep that title and stuff. And him and Ricochet tore the house down. And seeing clips of that running around on Twitter on my birthday was just such a treat, because just seeing that, when I turned 29 last year was just a blessing for me, because I love wrestling so much. So anytime you combine wrestling with my birthday, I feel like I'm at home. So, um, it's been 1 year since this match happened, and I did rewatch it a few days ago, and this match definitely still holds up. So this was on NXT Worlds Collide, which was the final, I believe, event that was under the NXT 2.0 banner, because a few days later they weren't known as NXT 2.0 anymore, and it was just NXT as we know it now. Um, and yeah, Carmelo did retain the title, and then he went on to have all of his success, and then Ricochet went on to have his success. But just watching the match over again, just, bless my soul. And I got to retweet and talk about it, on Twitter. And Carmelo actually liked the tweet of what I said. And I was like, oh my God, like, y'all know I love me some Carmelo Hayes, okay? He don't miss. And he's in my intro for a reason. Like, he follows the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Twitter. So big ups to him for, the support and love. And it's just like, I can't say enough great things about this man. He's just so great. And I just feel like the world is his, right? So I will be doing a Hardy Wrestling Podcast extra episode specifically about this match because I loved it so much, and it just holds a special place in my heart because it took place on my birthday last year. So yeah, I just had to address that part, and that did happen in wrestling this past week, so I just had to address that. So I just love it, and the new episode will be out on Thursday, I believe. So be on the lookout for that and watch it live. So yeah. Also in wrestling this past week, I loved the WOW match between Tormenta and Chantilly Chella. This wasn't this past weekend because this past weekend was a recap episode, but the episode before that, which took place the same day as in the same weekend as Payback, this episode took place. And Tormenta and Chantilly Chella had a heck of a match. A lot of people really didn't think that Chantilly Chella was going to have what it took to really face off against somebody like Tormenta, who has an amazing lucha background, from being from Guadalajara, Mexico. Um, but even with everything that she was doing in that match, Chantilly Chella was able to match it and fight back and be as resilient as she knew how to be with her kickboxing background and also with some of her high flying as well. So I really am happy that this match took place and that Chantilly Chella came out with the win. And it shocked a lot of people. It shocked the referee, it shocked commentary. But either way, this match was really good. And I just appreciated it a whole lot. And so I just had to talk about it on my show. Also, this tag team match took place, and this was a Sophia Lopez themed episode because she was on here like twice in two different outfits, which I love. She is the world's greatest attorney. Um, yeah, her tag team, Las Banditas, who is made up of Vivian Rivera and Sylvia Sanchez, had to fight the Mother Truckers, who is Holly Swag and Big Rig Betty. They're a mother-daughter duo in wrestling. And outside of wrestling, they're actually, well, outside of WOW, let me say that, they're going to be on the OVW Wrestlers documentary on Netflix, which is coming out this week too. So be on the lookout for that. These two women as a tag team called the Mother Truckers on WOW are amazing. And basically Sophia Lopez made them, a deal by if they basically saying if she got them out of jail, then they would have to lay down for Las Banditas. But they refused to do that, and they put on a heck of a barn burner of a tag team match. And in the end, the Mother Truckers wound up winning, but they wound up getting arrested by LAPD, and that made me so upset. So I just wanted to take this time to say, free the Mother Truckers, okay? Free them. Get them out of jail. Get them a new lawyer, David McClain. Free the Mother Truckers. I hope we see them in season 2 because seriously, they're great. Free them. Free the Mother Truckers. All right. And finally, in the world of WOW, we had Princess Aussie versus Penelope Pink for the WOW World Championship. And this match was fantastic. It made my heart swell because when it comes to women's wrestling, like it's something that I am very passionate about because duh, I'm a woman. And and it's just like when you sit and you wonder about all the great women's matches that there have been, this is definitely one of them because Penelope Pink was just being vicious throughout the entire match, trying to tear Princess Aussie down, not only body wise but also in spirit. But Princess Aussie really did fight out of it, and she tried her level best to win that title. But Penelope Pink just wasn't having it. She used her ring awareness and her toughness in order to retain her WoW World Championship. And of course, me and Penelope have had our differences back and forth. Probably still having differences now. But I will give credit where credit is due. Penelope Pink brought her A game in that match, even though she tried to cheat on two different occasions. But either way, she did do a good job outside of the cheating. Um, and hopefully, Princess Aussie will have another opportunity because she has shown herself to be an amazing talent on Women of Wrestling. So hopefully, at some point, they'll meet each other down the road. But it's kind of hard to, be hopeful about that considering the Beast made her grand return and beat up on Penelope Pink too. So season 2 is about to be a doozy. But I was really happy to witness this match. It was really good on the Saturday that Payback took place. Now, of course, WoW comes on at 6 p.m. here in Alabama. So right after WoW came on was Payback. So imagine going from watching this amazing of a women's match to this. I am gagged even now and overwhelmed even thinking about it because Trish and Becky Lynch tore the house down in that cage match at Payback. Like they opened the show and it was just so amazing. I feel like Trish Stratus definitely deserves her flowers for wanting to participate in a match like this. Um, at the age of 47, like that is a pretty big deal. Like she doesn't have to do stuff like this. She could just make her appearances and just wrestle, the odd match and just sort of, you know, be her best self in that way. But no, she is coming here and she wants to step up to the highest level that these women are at, even here and now. Because if you really think about it, during her prime, when she was, a multi time women's champion, there was only so much time the women could get, and they weren't being placed in stipulations like this. And if they do, it was highly rare. Um, because her and Trish were the first, I mean, her and Lita were the first two women to ever main event a Monday Night Raw, and that was in the 2000s. So really let that sink in. Um, and the thing that I mostly loved about this match was the fact that it was a love letter to wrestling, to women's wrestling as a whole, because you had Becky Lynch, no, you had Trish actually hit the Widow's Peak, which was a move made famous by possibly a future Hall of Famer, Victoria, aka Lisa Marie Varon, who she had a standing rivalry with back in the day. She paid tribute to her in that way. Becky paid tribute to Lita by hitting the twist of fate. Like throughout this whole match, you could see different pieces of women's wrestling throughout it. And it was just so beautiful. Like going from watching Penelope versus Princess Aussie and then having this open up Payback just blessed every inch of my soul. And I will just never forget it. Like I felt a huge amount of pride seeing both of those take place back to back. And I just love women's wrestling so much. Like I love wrestling as a whole, but when it comes to women's wrestling, there's just nothing that can truly beat it for me. Watching these women be powerful, watching these women lift things, watching these women rake your teeth like Trish is doing in this picture. Like it just does everything for my soul, and it makes me feel like there's nothing I can't do, even though I know I'm not an athlete, and um and I know that I'm not, that strong in a sense, but I'm strong in other areas. It just makes me feel really good. And just watching both of those take place was just amazing. And of course, Becky Lynch won, after even, after hitting a suplex off the top rope and Trish Stratus hanging upside down. Like, it was just a very emotional match. But Becky won, and it was really great for her. I'm glad she had that moment, and this was an amazing way to end their rivalry. It was great. So I'm just really happy about that. And now Becky gets to move on and fight Tiffany Stratton for the NXT Women's title this Tuesday. And I hate that I'm going to miss it because I'll be gone out of town. But oh my God, like I'm just so excited for her. I'm excited for both of these women. Like, because y'all know if y'all watch NXT, Tiffany Stratton accidentally mentioned Becky Lynch as a former NXT Women's Champion. And that was an honest mistake because I can see, anybody just automatically thinking that Becky was one, but in actuality, she wasn't one. She had a couple of matches for the title, but she always wound up losing them. And the most memorable one in my mind was when Becky fought Mercedes Moné when she was Sasha Banks for the title, and they almost broke each other's arms. I think that match was the first match I ever saw between those two women, and they just had me like they had my jaw on the floor because I just couldn't believe these women were just tearing each other up like this. But other than that, that was really it. So Becky has an opportunity to face off against Tiffany, who had her name in her mouth multiple times and kept visiting Raw, just to drop by and say hey or whatever. But now Tiffany's like, yeah, I'm sorry I made that mistake, but you'll never be NXT champion because I'll be a better champion than you. And Becky was like, you want to bet? And she challenged her last Tuesday. So I'm here for it. I just love every inch of this. And I don't necessarily agree that Becky is on a slow slump right now. I feel like she definitely knows who she is at this point in her career, and now she's just sort of just doing whatever it is that she wants to do at this point, because she's a mother, she's accomplished so many different things. So I feel like now she's just having fun and doing what she wants to do, because she's so solidified in who she is and her identity on screen. So I love it. And I've always loved Becky Lynch, except for like that whole year or period when she beat Bianca for the 26 seconds thing, and it hurt my feelings. But other than that, I've always loved her. And I can't wait to see what her and Tiffany do. Like, this is going to be amazing. But yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, so I forgot. Yeah, this is the graphic that they had. This is really happening on free television. So please watch NXT. Please watch NXT. It's great. Another thing I liked in wrestling in Payback was of course the match between LA Knight and The Miz with John Cena as a special guest referee. A part of me questioned why was John Cena, hey JD, being the special guest referee, but he wasn't a bad presence. He didn't really make it all about himself. He was just the most forceful referee on the planet because of course he's strong like these two guys. So anytime they were doing something illegal where they could have got DQ'd for it, he was pulling them apart in a very forceful way, and they didn't necessarily like it. So I was just like, oh snap, what is going on here? Like, you could feel the tension between him and The Miz, and you could also feel the tension between him and LA. So I'm just like, what's going on? What are we gonna do here? But the match was great, and John Cena did give LA Knight his flowers, but then before he did that, they had a standoff with each other. Like, they were staring at each other like, yo, what you want to do? You want to fight or whatever? But John Cena was just trying to be respectful, but LA Knight has something to prove here. So yeah, like it was really intense, but John Cena still gave him his props or whatnot. So will they fight? I don't know. Will I be okay with it? Yes, I will if they do fight. But if they don't, that's fine too. But either way, at least they had this moment. But I still would love if they fought. That would be cool. Yeah. I also loved this Steel City street fight that happened between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and the Judgment Day, who get on my nerves. Y'all, the Judgment Day have been getting on my nerves for a long time now, but they are definitely, most definitely getting on my nerves now. They are just, oh my God. It's just like in this match alone, there was just so many shenanigans. It was like Damien and Finn could not get the job done on their own. So it's like they pulled in Dirty Dom in the beginning. And even while they were pulling them in, they were still getting their butts beat by Kevin and Sammy because they're a different breed. And as you can see from this picture, Kevin Owens was bleeding from his forehead, and he was ready to get it cracking with his hockey jerseys, which was paying tribute to Pittsburgh in that way. You know, big ups to y'all and y'all hockey team. And they was beating them with hockey sticks, and it was incredible. I loved it. So I'm just sitting here like, okay, what's gonna happen? And they tore them apart all around the ring. It was so, and all around the arena. It was fantastic. But in the end, Rhea Ripley, who doesn't know how to stay out of everybody else's business, decided to come out there and help Finn and Damien and Dominic and help them win those undisputed tag team titles. And I was so upset because on Raw that week, she was telling them, look, if y'all don't win these tag titles and if y'all don't get on one accord, there's going to be some changes around here, right? So I'm thinking she finna let them get the job done on their own or whatever and then see what happens. No, she just had to insert her little self in there. And also, well, not her little self, her big self in there. And then insert Dominic in there to help them win. Like they were, like Rhea speared Kevin Owens through a barricade. That slayed me because I'm just like, ma'am, don't you have a match for your title coming up? What are you doing? Why are you hurting yourself in this way? Then on top of that, you had Dominic use the briefcase to cluck Sami Zayn in the head in order to win the title. And I'm just like, I hate y'all. It's like y'all don't want to let these people deal with the consequences of their actions. Because I wanted to see what was going to happen. Then you had JD McDonough in there too. And I'm just like, y'all are just trying to keep people from dealing with the consequences of their actions. Like, yes, I wanted the Judgment Day to break up. Yes, I wanted Finn and Damien to keep fighting. Does that make me toxic? Yes. I don't care. I don't care. I wanted them to have a come to Jesus moment. But it's abundantly clear that they have dark forces on their side keeping them together. And I'm just sad. I'm just really sad. These folks really got all the belts except for the one belt that really full on matters when it comes to the grand scheme of things, which is Roman Reigns' undisputed women WWE championship. Like, I am just, oh, I'm so sick of him. I'm sick of him. I'm just sick of him. So yeah, Judgment Day has all the gold and silver, and then on top of that, Damien is also Senior Money in the Bank. So they're just so obnoxious to me at this point. I'm just so sick of them. I'm sick of them, Jesus. I'm sick of them. I'm tired. And then of course we have Shinsuke versus Seth. And this match was pretty good for the most part. There was a lot of storytelling in the idea that Shinsuke was really targeting Seth Rollins' back. And then what made it weird was um the great Muta was there watching the match. And this made me think, well, hold up. Is Shinsuke about to win this title? Like, I would be okay if Shinsuke had won the title in front of like someone who basically opened the doors for him in terms of Japanese wrestling. Like, I would have loved that, but that wound up not happening because even though Shinsuke was playing mind games with Seth Rollins and trying to beat his back in or whatever, it didn't work. And Seth Rollins still retained the World Heavyweight Championship. And this disappointed a lot of people online and a lot of my podcast friends because they really felt like Shinsuke doesn't really get opportunities like this that often. And in fact, he hasn't really gotten that many opportunities since he won the Royal Rumble so many years ago. And then he lost at WrestleMania in New Orleans to AJ Styles. And it's like ever since then, he has never been positioned as an actual competitor that could be at the top of the mountain. And it's very disappointing when you think about all of the other mid-card titles that he has ever won. And this event right here at Payback was the first time he had ever main event in a pay-per-view. And they mentioned that on commentary, and it's really heartbreaking when you think about how much, you know, pomp and circumstance was made about him coming to NXT and the type of matches that he had in NXT with the likes of Sami Zayn and Finn Balor and stuff like that. And it just seems like they'll never give him the ball to run with. And that really does upset people because Seth, you know, even though he is patterning himself as the workhorse champion, I asked Cedric a question on the Women's Wrestling Talk Payback after show. I asked him, "Do you think that it's possible that Seth Rollins is using this women this I keep saying women, I'm sorry, is using this world heavyweight championship as a participation trophy because he's never able to get the job done against Roman Reigns?" And there are some people who kind of agreed, there are some people who didn't really agree, and I'm okay with that. But to me, when you think of somebody like Shinsuke, who could definitely use that rub considering his character just changed, and he's doing all the stuff with him like a warrior in a manga, and he's doing all of his promos in Japanese, which makes it like even more like sinister in a way and just really dark and stuff, but it's still really cool and enthralling on television. It really made no sense for him to lose to Seth. And Seth is an amazing competitor, and he's definitely one of my favorite wrestlers of the modern era. But honestly, Shinsuke really could have won this match, and I would have been okay with that. And I almost feel like Seth having this world heavyweight title is kind of like him holding on to the notion that he can be on top without really being on top. And it's just really disappointing because we know Seth is a workhorse. We do value him, but he might have this chip on his shoulder where he feels like he should be on top. And it's, it's a little bit off putting because while you're so focused on being the workhorse that's on top, you're still cutting everybody else's legs off. Sorry for the visual, but that's just how it feels. But yeah, Seth won. He's still out here as a champion, but how long will this really last though? So we're just gonna keep going. There there is Raquel on Monday Night Raw on my birthday. Raquel is on the warpath for Rhea Ripley because of course Rhea did screw her out of the women's world title at Payback in their match together because Dominic here again inserted his nose into women's business and distracted her. So it's just kind of like boom, like she said she wanted to fight. Of course, she fought Chelsea Green, who decided to talk smack about her to Adam Pearce. And then after that, Raquel issued a challenge and a rematch for the women's world title and had Dominic banned from ringside. And I feel like that's a really smart thing to do. But at the same time, you have the other members of the Judgment Day who I'm more than sure wouldn't mind interfering on her behalf too. So unless Raquel brings somebody out to their power, then I just don't know how exactly that's going to work. And Rhea will just continue to just be underhanded all the time. I hate it. Like, I really hate it for her because honestly, Raquel is the only person who can compete on the same level as a Rhea Ripley because they're so parallel in size and strength. Because as you can see in this picture, Raquel is throwing Chelsea Green around like a rag doll because she's just angry. And there really isn't anybody else who can, give her a match like that, unless, of course, it's Bianca Belair, but she's taking a break and she's on SmackDown. So it's really tough, but I do hope Raquel does win that title because she does, deserve to have a little bit of singles gold because I've been sort of waiting for her to get in her singles bag for a minute. So hopefully Raquel can just be able to do better in this match tonight for the title. So yeah. Then we also have the curious conundrum of the women's tag team titles that's just frustrating me because Piper Niven wasn't able to compete this past Monday because she had, some type of illness or some type of health issue. And we do wish her the best in that and healing in that. But the thing that bothers me with these tag titles is that there's always something stopping their momentum. And of course, big ups to Chelsea Green because she's so extra in terms of her character work that it makes up for any type of absence that's happening with the tag titles right now. But it just frustrates me as a women's wrestling fan to see these tag titles constantly being put through the ringer just because of some type of ungodly curse that's been put on them. Like, I do believe in the women's tag team titles curse, because it just feels like ever since what happened between Trinity and Mercedes, the tag titles haven't been able to be in a good standing since then. And it's gone, like, there hasn't been like a long standing feud for them. There's just been like a hot potatoing of the titles happening back and forth for the sake of story progression for the singles division and stuff, like with Shayna and Ronda. Like, there have been injuries, like with Raquel and Liv. There's just been a whole lot of mess that's that's always surrounded by these tag titles, and it's just so scary. And quite frankly, it's just getting out of hand to the point to where I almost just want them to get rid of them entirely and just combine them and make them into like a women's intercontinental title or a women's US title or something. Like, give all of these women who aren't necessarily like tag teams something else to do. But then it's also sad because you have the type of talent like Team Casey Squared, like Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, who are on Raw, who are only used as like, you know, women to get beat up on when it comes to the champions or whatever. It's just like they're not doing anything either. And by all accounts, they should be in tag team title contention. But you got rid of the NXT titles by combining them with the women's tag titles that are also cursed. And it's just like you're leaving all of these women with really nothing to fight for. And it is just so sad. It's really sad, and it's just inconsistent. And this is not what I had imagined when these tag titles were created. Like, I wanted to believe in the best of these tag titles after Bailey and Mercedes slash Sasha, created them and made them a thing. But it just seems like there's still so much that just hasn't happened with these titles yet. And it almost makes me wonder, should they really, just even have these anymore? It's just really sad. I hate it. I really hate it. But this is where we're at with that. And then, of course, you had the match between Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. This was an amazing match. I loved it. Um, like, both of these women, if they had fought each other and were at NXT at the same time, this match would have been way rougher. But either way, I really enjoyed this match, and I love that Zoe is now on her own journey to sort of solidify herself as a star outside of the shadow of Trish Stratus. But I really do believe that Trish might actually go after her so they can have a feud against each other. Because of course Zoe Stark did try to help her in the cage match against Becky Lynch, but then Trish wanted to be ungrateful. So Zoe left her behind and gave her a Z360 for her troubles. So that was crazy. But either way, the match between Shayna and Zoe turned out to be really good. I enjoyed it. But the dialogue afterwards seemed to be really interesting because after the match was over, I believe Shayna won the match, and Shayna looked at Zoe and told her, you're a better opponent than Ronda. And then Zoe looked at her and said, well, you're a tougher opponent than Trish. And they shook hands. So I guess now they're going to be friends. I don't know. But either way, I enjoyed it. It was good. Yeah, this is a possibility, guys. Zoe versus Trish. Are you here for it or are you not here for it? Tell me. Then you had the Miz in this treat of a promo on Miz TV. He claimed that he had John Cena on as a guest, only for them to play up the notion of "you can't see me" as an online joke. And he was talking to John Cena as if he was sitting there and trash talking him and apparently threw him out of the ring. And it was just the most hysterical thing I had seen in my whole life. And the fact that this took place on the Raw of my birthday just makes it even better because I'm just like, one of the best jokes that are running online is whenever somebody thinks of John Cena, it's like, oh, I can't see him. And then they look at like a blank space or somewhere and they say that's John Cena when it actually isn't. And it's just so hilarious how that joke has been running around online for like years. And then the fact that WWE knows about it and played into it for television, chef's kiss. I love it. And I feel like only The Miz would be able to pull something off like that. Only him. Because he is just so silly. He is so silly and he is just such a great performer, when he's not wrestling. Like, he just has the crazy charisma to pull Unhinged off. And this was so unhinged, but I loved it and it was just so great. So this made me laugh. But I'm wondering if this is leading to a possible feud between him and John Cena again, which reminds me so much of like the 2010s when him and John Cena kept fighting each other and were at each other's throats. Like, it's really crazy. But then it would also feed into what LA Knight said. It's like how he's always trying to live in the glory days of what happened back then when he was champion back then. So, oh, there's so many layers to it, but this segment was funny. Then of course you got Jay Uso, main event Jay. It's just me, Uso. Day one, it's just me, Uso. It's just Jay, y'all. He is on Raw now due to a trade that Cody Rhodes helped facilitate. And for all intents and purposes, I'm glad that Jey Uso gets to have this new shake, this new lease on life on Raw. It reinvigorates him as a man, and he can have so many feuds with people who honestly don't trust him or don't like him at this point. Like, I am so here for him being on Raw because it's just really cool. Now, I'm gonna miss him on SmackDown. Don't get me wrong, because we host the after show and we're left behind with the less interesting twin. No shade, but shade. Um, Jay is on Raw, and I just feel like that's just really cool stuff. And the fact that him and Sami Zayn were able to have a reunion and hug each other and call each other Usi again was just like, oh my god, my feelings. But I'm just so happy that they're running with Jay being his own man now. I love it. And in fact, they're running with it so hard that he remixed the Uso theme song into just me, Us, day one ish. Like, it's just me. And I liked it because I relate to that. And then on top of that, you got Jimmy, like I said, the less interesting twin, popping off with his theme song, talking about how he wants to be there for the family and all of that. And a lot of people have pointed out how his theme song sounds very similar to Roman Reigns. So what that means, I guess that'll be unfolded later on, but I'm just happy Jay is on Raw. And then you had this match. Chad Gable versus Gunta for the Intercontinental Championship. This match was the main event of Raw. Now, if you had told me that a match for the Intercontinental Championship, well, actually, no, this has happened before, I believe. Like, oh my God. Like, if you had told me an IC championship match with main event or Raw, I would look at you like you were crazy a long time ago. But this really happened. And these men tore the house down. They were suplexing the crap out of each other, chopping the crap out of chests and everything. And as you can see, it even spilled over into the timekeepers area, and Samantha had to run for her life. She was looking shocked the whole time. Like, it was amazing. And it was a couple of times where I really did think that Chad Gable was going to win. But no, he did it. And Gunther beat him right in front of his wife and kids. And one of his babies was crying. And I was like, no. That's something that I can't stand. I cannot stand seeing children cry. Like, it breaks my heart. Like, I don't like it. It just breaks my heart. And I just want everything to be okay, because a part of me really felt like if y'all really weren't going to let Chad Gable win, why would you have his family come? Just why? Like, that's heartbreaking as F to me. I mean, I understand that happens a lot of the time in wrestling because it happened in NXT a lot too. But at the same time, dang, it just really sucks. Like, why would you invite me here to watch my baby lose or watch my dad lose or significant other lose? Like, what are we doing? Why is this happening? So hopefully this means that Chad will get another chance. Even though they have fought like 3 times. But honestly, I just want Chad to get his lick back for Gunther making his baby cry. That's just what I want. And then, of course, last week, NXT happened. And Tiffany and Kiana had a pretty good match to open up NXT. It was really fast paced, and it was really good. Even though it kind of like started off with them trying to do underhanded things to each other. they seemed incredibly evenly matched when it came to their acrobatic skills. Like I would be willing to see these two fight each other again. Like I'm really here for it. But of course Tiffany won and then she had her challenge by Becky. So that's what we're moving towards. But either way, I was happy that Kiana James had this opportunity, as a black woman in wrestling. This was really great. So I'm here for it. This match was really good though. I loved it. And then of course, Kiana James might have a new rivalry in Roxanne because Kiana was mad that she lost the title and then she came backstage and then Roxanne was telling her, look, you don't have to throw everything around and take, your loss out on everybody. But Kiana wasn't hearing it and they started brawling backstage. So hopefully this will lead to an amazing feud between two incredibly gifted women's wrestlers. Like I can't wait to see what's going to unfold with that. Um so yeah, I'm really here for it. But then I also want Gigi Dolan to get her lick back on Kiana because Kiana has beaten her like 3 times, and I'm just like, yo, I'm sick of this. Y'all better stop playing with Gigi, okay? But either way, this feud, if this is really what's cooking, is going to be interesting too. So I'm here for it. And speaking of Gigi, she tried to talk some sense into Thea Hale, who's of course on the lam from Chase U after Andre Chase threw in the towel for her at the Great American Bash when she was fighting Tiffany Stratton for the title. Her and JC Jane have, of course, linked up and created an ungodly alliance. And Gigi was trying to warn her, like, no, JC is only going to use you and she's only going to, you know, take you down a dark path that's going to influence you in a bad way. And of course, JC and Gigi have their beef from when they were, in Toxic Attraction, and then of course it got broken up, and now they're no longer friends. So of course, Gigi, it makes sense that Gigi would try to warn Thea of this, but then you have Blair Davenport enter herself in it and talk about how she feels that Thea Hill, is just a little girl and how everybody else is just acting like little girls in a grown woman space. And I'm just like, girl, you're talking a lot of mess for somebody who got beat up at a Buc-ee's. You need to chill. You got beat up at a Buc-ee's by Roxanne, but yeah, you got all this crap to say about everybody else. I'm gonna need for you to take a piece of humble pie and hush, but she doesn't know how to do that. So yeah, this was interesting to me. And then this, of course, led to Gigi versus Thea. And this match was pretty good. Here again, you had Gigi Dolan dress up in her Renaissance fair, um, looking amazing as she always does because she's my wife. And then you had, Thea, doing a great job in ring as well. But then, of course, you had Blair Davenport and JC Jane interfere on behalf of Thea. And then she lost the match. So, and then with the way that JC was looking at Blair Davenport after it happened, it made me wonder, is JC trying to create a new faction? Would JC create a new faction with Thea Hill and Blair Davenport and they'll be like, what, new toxic? I don't know. But that did intrigue me a little bit. So I can't wait to see what else unfolds with that. But either way, I want Thea Hill to get back to being herself because I love her being, fun and peppy, but her heart is broken. And sometimes when your heart is broken, you act out. So that's what's going on with her. And also happy belated birthday to her too. She just turned 20. So yeah. And then another thing in NXT that blew my mind was the fact that Kalani Jordan, who is Miss Her, if you know or don't know, she was talking to Lyra Valkyria backstage, and Dana Brooke wanted to show ownership of her and make it seem like she shouldn't be talking to her and that she should only be getting guidance from her. And I'm just like, you can't tell Kalani who and who not to talk to, Dana. You can have more than one best friend. Didn't you watch Disney Channel growing up? But I guess she didn't. But whatever. It's just like, Dana, you don't own Kalani. Like, just because you're mentoring Kalani or whatever it is you think you're doing for Kalani, because we all know that you keep looking at her sideways every time she loses. It's just like every time that happens, it's just like you always got something mean to say about her, or something passive aggressive to say about her, or you look like you want to beat up on Kalani. And it's just like, ma'am, You cannot take ownership of her or make it seem like, oh, well, she should only be talking to me and all this other stuff. Ma'am, Lyra Valkyria is a great wrestler and she's allowed to talk, and Kalani is allowed to get advice from other wrestlers that's not you. Because, ma'am, there's only been so much you've accomplished. And like I always say, this is not the time in our nation's history for you to be trying to take ownership of a black woman. So stop. But either way, that's what's going on. And I'm gonna need for Kalani to really like step up and see the writing on the wall and actually beat up on Dana before Dana tries to beat up on her. So yeah, I'm excited for this. But then something that I'm not so excited about is Wesley and Ilya Dragunov having to fight each other for the number one contendership to Carmelo Hayes' NXT title at No Mercy. The thing that irritates me the most about this is that I feel like this is all happening because Ilya got in Carmelo's head and made Carmelo think that the only reason he is still champion after Great American Bash is because of the fact that there was that happy accident that Trick had with that belt, and then Ilya ran his head into it, and then he like that was just a whole thing with that. He ran his head into it, and then Carmelo hit Melo don't miss, and then he won. And then Ilya really did get in his head with that. Like, you only won because of Trick. And it just pisses me off because as Trick is on his own journey, you know, Ilya is planting seeds in his head that's making it seem like their friendship isn't solid. And that pisses me off. But I'm gonna get to that a little bit later. You have Wes Lee, who wants to have another chance at the title because, of course, he was the last person that faced Carmelo for that title in that historic NXT main event. And he wants another chance. And I feel like he is more deserving of another chance than Ilya is. Because their match, albeit it was in the main event of NXT a few weeks ago, it didn't go as long as I would have liked because I feel like there's still so much more that they could have explored in ring with that. Um, so I would prefer if West got the chance over Ilya Dragunov. Because okay, Ilya, you can talk about how it's your destiny or whatever, but sweetheart, if you're NXT champion, will anybody really check for you? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's not given. And I feel like if Wes Lee were to win, at least, he wants to win because he is doing it to prove that he is not just, some guy that can do all types of happy tricks and trying to steal, and has like a weird chip on his shoulder because his tag team partner got taken away from him and stuff like that. Wes Lee wants to do it because he truly believes in himself. Ilya is giving, I'm entitled, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And I would just prefer Carmelo versus West 2 over Carmelo versus Ilya 2. But a lot of people are speculating that it might just be a triple threat regardless. And I'm just like, oh, I don't want that. I want Melo versus West 2. That's what I want. But of course, they don't really care what I want specifically. But if I'm just putting it out there, that's really what I would favor over Ilya. And when it comes to Ilya, getting in Trick Williams' head, I'm tired of it because he went back there and proceeded to talk about, Carmelo to his head, like Carmelo in his face and stuff like that, was talking about, how weak he is and stuff like that. And I'm sitting here like, I'm gonna need for you to leave Trick and Melo gang alone because they have been on top and they have been solid with each other from the very beginning. And he is doing that just so Trick won't have Carmelo's back somehow. And he's also doing it just to get in his head because he beat Trick Williams a few weeks ago. Yeah, you beat him, but at the same time, Trick showed a lot of guts going up against somebody like him. Starting off his sort of in-ring journey in that way. And I'm happy for Trick, and I'm happy that he's having his moment. But I'm gonna need for Ilya to back all the way up off of Trick and Melo game. And I mean back all the way up off of it. I'm tired of him. I'm tired of him trying to plant seeds in their friendship and make it seem like there's discord and dissension. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. If this leads to Trick and Carmelo fighting, I'm gonna be stressed out. And it's gonna be all Ilya Dragunov's fault. It's going to be all his fault. And I hate it. I literally hate it. I'm going to need for him to back off. For real. And then finally, when it comes to SmackDown, I loved the partnership between Shotzi and Charlotte as they fought Bayley and Io Sky this past Friday. And I just love the fact that not Jesus. I love the fact that Charlotte came out in her sort of Renaissance silver coat, and then underneath it she had on pink gear that was giving Barbie, and I loved it because, quite frankly, it's just really cute. I just love how Jesus Charlotte is experimenting more with different colors in her gear, because usually we would see her in lots of purples and lots of greens and lots of blues, but this year we have seen her in orange, we've seen her with black with diamonds, and we've seen her in light green, and now here she is in pink. And I'm just like, we haven't really seen her in a lot of pink since her woo gear that she had when she was a Divas champion. And I love that. Like, I want her to experiment with colors more. And I love Shotzi's haircut and how, it just makes her look like a horror movie badass. I just love it. I just love her haircut, and I loved how they were able to rally and get the win over Damage Control, with, of course, the assist to Asuka, who wants her opportunity at the women's title that Io has, of course, that she cashed in on Bianca with. And I have never been more excited to see two people stand in a ring with each other. Like, I have been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Like, I'll never forget how Asuka got in Io's face and was calling her stupid over and over again in her native tongue. Baka, baka, baka. And I was just like, yo, I want these two to fight right now. Y'all gotta fight right now. But they didn't. But now this is gonna be some interesting stuff. It's like you have two of the most iconic Japanese women's wrestlers of all time facing off for one of the top women's titles in wrestling today. Like, I'm just here for all of it. Like, I'm just so here for all of it. I'm so ready for it. Like, this is Stardom-esque. This is New Japan-esque. I am here for all of it. I just need it in my veins. I need it in my soul. And then, of course, they did schedule it for 2 weeks from now on SmackDown, but I need a rivalry. I'm just greedy. I just need a rivalry. I just need more to happen for them. I'm just so excited. Oh my God, it's so cool. Now, of course, LA Knight was on SmackDown and he defeated Austin Theory, um, not only in ring, but also on the microphone. LA Knight also had an amazing moment where, when he was cutting his promo before the match started, he took a little bit of a shot at Kevin Nash, who had a lot of stuff to say about him in the past when it comes to his character. If you may or may not know, Kevin Nash has his own podcast, and he said that he felt like LA Knight was just, sort of like a bootleg Rock mixed with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that he's only like a replay of the Attitude Era, and that's the only reason why people are feeling him. And on the microphone Friday night, LA said, "Now, I'm not a dummy, because the Miz, well, he said the Miz's theme song says I came to play. And I'm not a dummy, because I would say that play is an adjective, but it's not. It's a verb." And I was like, oh, like, I didn't know what that was, but I was just like, okay, we have an English lesson going on. But then my dad told me that he was taking a shot at Kevin Nash because a long time ago, Kevin cut this promo with Scott Hall, rest in peace, when they invaded Monday Night Nitro in 1996, and said, "So this is where the big boys play, huh? Look at the adjective, play." But play is definitely not an adjective. It's a verb. It's what you do. I guess Kevin Nash missed those commercials. But yeah, he said that, and I'm just like, yo, he really threw mad shade at him. I was like, wow, this is insane. So LA Knight clearly has amazing microphone skills that people just resonate with, that people just love. Like, when it comes to LA Knight, it's not something that you have to overthink. He just is. He's just awesome regardless. The only thing that I don't necessarily like about LA Knight is just sometimes in his promos, he has a tendency to make comments about women, as if to say, well, like, as if to dig at his opponent. Like, he'll say something about the women in their lives and make it seem like, oh, well, I'll fix them up, or I'll make them feel better than you ever can. And that's just kind of gross. That's a little bit outdated for me. But other than that, I love everything else that LA is doing. But I just had to be honest about that component of LA Knight's promos that sort of weirds me out. It's just like, okay, why are you bringing up the Miz's wife in that way? Or why are you bringing up um, why are you bringing up Austin Theory's mom in that way? Like, why are you doing that? That's a little bit much for me. But either way, LA Knight is a star on the rise. Like, his merchandise is breaking records left and right. They're giving him new t-shirts and stuff because he has a t-shirt that has a picture of him that says, "Let me talk to you." And it's cool. So yeah, I'm gonna support him because I think he's a really cool talent. He's very talented and stuff like that. So he really does have it going on, and I can't wait to see what else he has in store for us next. Hopefully, if SmackDown comes back to Birmingham next year, I will lose my mind doing the chant. It'll be fun. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So this was another interesting part of SmackDown in the sense that you had the Judgment Day, who of course can come on whatever show they want because they now have all the titles, which blows my mind and low key scares me because Dominic might use that as an excuse to torture his dad again. Oh my god, I'm not looking forward to that. But they came on the microphone and they were bragging about how they have all the titles and can't nobody stop them or whatever. But guess who came out? Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. And they had a really epic standoff. Speaking of amazing standoffs, like the one we had with Oscar and EO, this one was badass. And I was here for it. I'm so here for Bobby and the Street Profits standing up to freaking Judgment Day. Like, I'm so here for it. Like, I want to see these guys fight for all the marbles. Fight for every last marble that there is and just take everything from the Judgment Day. Take it. Just take it. Because here lately, Bobby and the Street Profits have been, solidifying themselves with their new look and their new vibe. With taking themselves, I guess, a little bit more seriously outside of the party animal type of thing that they had going on. It's like they keep coming out here looking like the Hurt Business 2.0, and I hate to keep comparing them to that, but that's just really what it's giving. And it's just, I'm ready for them to take some names, and I want the Street Profits to take it all. Like, take the titles from them. Do it. I'm here for it. I love this standoff. It was very intense. You could cut the tension with a knife. There was just tension cake everywhere. I just loved it. I can't wait to see how this unfolds. And then, speaking of the Judgment Day unfolding things, tell me why. How is it that on Monday y'all was talking all that trash about the Judgment Day, but then you get on SmackDown and then you jump AJ Styles and then you put AJ in the ring for him to get beat up by Solo Sikoa? What does that mean? What is up with y'all? They are the most first at the window and then at the door people I've ever met in my life. If you've never heard that phrase before, my grandma, Ada Mae, rest in peace, used to say that a lot. She is from Utah, Alabama, which is basically kind of like the country, and she would have all kinds of different phrases that she would describe things as. And something that she always said was that you first at the window and then at the door, which basically means that you just don't know what you want. You can't make up your mind. You're going from one thing to the next. And when it comes to the Judgment Day, that's definitely how you can describe them. It's like one minute they want to talk trash to people, but then they want to help the people they're talking trash about. Then you got Rhea being inconsistent with how she's giving, consequences to Finn and Damien. And they then she of course helps them win the tag title. So it's just kind of like, what are y'all on? It's frustrating. But then this also made me wonder that with all of the mess that's going on with AJ and the OC and him being mad that they weren't able to help him after he got jumped by Jimmy Uso earlier in the night, and this happening with Solo and Judgment Day, and then you got the Judgment Day in the face of Bobby and the Street Profits, it makes me wonder, are they setting up an ungodly War Games match for Survivor Series? Because the more I thought about it, the more it could work. Because I was just like, you have Judgment Day and their 50 members along with Rhea. You have the OC and Mia. And then the Street Profits could get somebody to fight for them if they want to even up the odds with the women, you know, and get Bianca Belair once she finishes taking her break, maybe. And then if you want to throw the LWO in there, you got Zelina there too. So it's just like, are they setting up an ungodly battle of the factions? Like, and then when it comes to the bloodline, if they wanted to do something, they could get Tamina. Like, that would be some sick stuff. I feel like somehow or another, they are setting up an ungodly War Games match with a battle of the factions. But of course, they probably aren't. But either way, I feel like that was just where my mind was going when it came to that. But either way, it's just really intriguing stuff. And I want to see Mia Yim in the ring more. I'm tired of y'all playing in her face. I want to see her in the ring more, and I want to see Zelina in the ring more because they had a tag team match. They had a dark tag team match against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn at that episode of SmackDown, and then Zelina came out wearing her beautiful black and white outfit, which paid tribute to her father, who sadly passed away in the events of September 11th, 22 years ago today. So I'm tired of them playing in these other women's faces. Put these women on television. Put them on television. But yeah, that was all that I liked in wrestling this week. And now we're going to go to the call to action. So, of course, thank you for listening and watching this show if you've been watching live on all platforms. Of course, if you want to continue to support me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on all platforms, or as even a podcast host, a writer, a color commentator, or a panelist for your conventions or stuff, please know that you can email me at hardywrestlingpodcast@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. I am available most of the time on those platforms, and I will definitely email you back. I've been blessed to share a lot of my talents in different places in New York, and also with Women's Wrestling Talk with my own show and other promotions such as the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, Black Girl Magic 2022, and more recently Spartan Wrestling. And I hope to continue my journey as a color commentator as well. And of course, if you need a panelist, I will be, I'm definitely available for wrestling panels and stuff like that for your convention. So don't hesitate to book your girl. I'm definitely interested in doing more when it comes to speaking about wrestling as a whole from a female perspective. So please book your girl. Don't hesitate. Book your girl, book your girl, book your girl. Um, so with that, also don't hesitate to purchase all of my Hardy Wrestling Podcast merchandise at foryourwear.com/Hardy Wrestling Podcast. You can buy the Alabama Wrestling t-shirt. Of course, if you like interesting Alabama merchandise, I definitely have that with my t-shirt line and my hoodies line that celebrates all of the accomplishments of wrestling personalities from the past and present who are from the state of Alabama, just like me. And you can get the t-shirts in red or in black, and you can get the hoodies in red and black, and they come in all sizes. So if you have a mind to, please go on foryourwear.com and buy the Alabama Wrestling t-shirt that was crafted by me and my boyfriend, Najaqua McCoy, as well as the team that I have at For Your Wear. Please check that out. This t-shirt was made with love. So if you are interested in any type of interesting merchandise like that, please, don't hesitate to purchase it, because Alabama has a lot of great wrestling history that a lot of people just don't know about. Like, I'm sure a lot of people didn't even know that the very first episode of TNA Impact Wrestling was in Huntsville, Alabama, or that even Sensational Sherry, who was billed from New Orleans, Louisiana, was actually born in Birmingham, just like me. So yeah, if you want a t-shirt that embodies all of that greatness, purchase a t-shirt at foryourwear.com, as well as my other t-shirts that celebrate the bloodline, called The Bold and the Bloodline, which celebrates the dramatic storyline of the Anoa'i tribe in this story, as well as the t-shirt that celebrates the love of Bianca Belair and Montez Ford, with the t-shirt that says Beyonce, which is their ship name. So please purchase some merchandise for your girl at foryourwear.com/Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And of course, if you want to hear more of my voice, you can also check me out later on today on the WOW Superheroes After Show with Katrina Blake and Emily May Heller as we talk about the goings on of WOW Women of Wrestling every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can check me out on the Friday After Show for SmackDown with our editor in chief, Dreon Santana, as we get into the Blue Brand every night after SmackDown goes off. So please, if you want to hear my voice more, you can check me out over there. And you can read my articles on our website, which is www.talkpod.com. I'm in the process of writing more recaps about Women of Wrestling on a more consistent basis, and I absolutely enjoy it because I enjoy the product so much. So please read my first article that I put out, and I'm definitely still working on the other one for this past episode this weekend too. So continue to just support the brand and support your girl in whatever it is that I'm doing in wrestling because I'm out here. And even when you think I'm not out here, I'm still out here. So, of course, this has been the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl, Stephanie Hardy. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the show the way that you do. Please know that you can listen to all the episodes of the show on every podcast platform, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and everywhere you can listen to podcasts audio wise. And you can watch it on the YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm up to 225 subscribers as of last week, so I'm really grateful for that. Please check out all of my interviews that I have up on there, as well as just continue watching the live stream. And you can like the page on Facebook too. It's just the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and just continue to just support the brand. Of course, follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. And just continue to just support the brand and support your girl as I'm out here figuring out life, figuring out my 30s, but most importantly, loving on wrestling as a whole. So, of course, this has been the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl, Stephanie Hardy. And until next time, bye, y'all.